Hi, my name is Nick Profaci. I'm a member of the New Paltz Board of Education, as well as a member of the Facilities Committee. And I'd like to take some time to go over the impending capital project, talk about what's involved with the project and what went into its planning. Just a bit of history as we get started. In March of this year, the Board of Education voted unanimously with regards to the scope of the project, the capital project. Then, after a bit of due diligence with regards to the costing of the project, in June of this year, the Board of Education also unanimously voted to move forward with bringing the project to the community for a vote. That vote will occur this Tuesday, October 28th, from 12 to 9 in the New Paltz High School. But what's included in the vote? The cost of the project is $52.9 million. What makes this project different than others that we've seen historically in the district is that it's inclusive of all four buildings. And I'll get into that a bit more later in the presentation, what went into the decision process or decision-making process with regards to why all four buildings. But the reality here is that all of our buildings need some form of infrastructure as well as educational upgrades. And they're important. And what was built into this particular project is really focusing on the major components, or those that were most important, those that we certainly have to have, both from, like I said, an infrastructure as well as from an educational standpoint. So let's get into this a little bit. Let's get into some of the things that we'll be working on internal to this project. So again, they're highest priority infrastructure items, things that if you've been to our schools, you've seen that, especially in the middle school, there's significant needs and have been for quite some time. They haven't been dealt with because we haven't been able to complete a capital project, but have been done in smaller projects along the way to keep those facilities running properly and trying to make them safe for children. But we're at a point now that we need to potentially move forward and have some major upgrades done and do that. Upgrades in infrastructure, upgrades in additional classrooms because we are limited in space, and improving the learning spaces for our students as we move forward. And a big issue through especially the middle school is ADA compliance. Limitations on the ability for disabled children to get in and out of classrooms. It limits their ability to participate in classes that they should be. So we have some classroom upgrades planned. Again, there's limitations with regards to the sizes of the classroom, the numbers of classrooms, especially in the middle school and the high school, where we have limited space. Children are overloaded in some of these classrooms. But again, there are also physical limitations to many of them that are in dire need of repair. We also want to make more space to allow for hands-on learning. Classrooms, again, are way too small, and collaborative learning is very limited because of the space limitations throughout the schools, especially, again, the middle school. Music room in the middle school, that's the gymnatorium. Acoustics in that particular area are certainly not conducive for a proper music program. It's just not the best of locations, and because of just site limitations, that's what we're left with. It also creates problems because of nearby classrooms and creating noise that makes it difficult for other areas. ADA compliance. The picture there is of the middle school ramps, as you've seen, and you can tell that they're very steep. If you've ever been in the school, you know that they're way too steep, certainly not up to current code standards with regards to the American Disability Act. So that's an area that we need to and will be dealt with as part of the infrastructure repairs in these buildings. This slide gives you a good indication. As you can see, there's many problems from an infrastructure standpoint, everything from degrading parking lots to broken pipes to buckled flooring, all of which will be taken care of as part of the infrastructure, the high priority infrastructure repairs as this project. Some specific examples of infrastructure needs include shifted bricks in the exterior walls that allow to penetrate the buildings and cause damage to the infrastructure, roofs that have exceeded their useful life, obsolete electrical panels, some from the 1970s, cracked and deteriorated sidewalks and parking lots, aged and inefficient windows, and antiquated water distribution systems, some which are more than 50 years old. Space limitations, storage is a problem throughout the district, continues to be. With any structure, since we're limited for space for classrooms, obviously we don't have areas in which to store needed equipment, and that takes up additional space, which creates even more problems. So storage will be added to all 4 of the buildings. Technology, there's the need to upgrade the network infrastructure. There are limitations there. We need to have capability for what's coming down the road with regards to technology. And the first thing that needs to be done is upgrade that network, so allow for it. We certainly don't have the capability for it currently, and that would be taken care of through the infrastructure improvements as well. And more. There's tons of improvements, and I'm not going to go through them each one. You can certainly read the slide. But what I will say is please do go to the website. The URL there is listed on the slide. Go to the website. You will see there's the listing. If you hit the tab or the area that regards to the facilities project, you can certainly see what is proposed, everything that's in the project. Essentially, again, is dealing with the infrastructure needs of the buildings as well as the educational needs of what our students need into the future. Energy efficiency and sustainability, high priority for the Board of Education as well as a high priority, I know, for our community. That the facility will be designed once we get into detailed design based on night ships-based standards, very similar to LEEDS-based standards and guidelines. In fact, one NICED, that particular CHIPS system actually takes quite a bit from the LEEDS guidelines, but certainly that is a priority for our district and for our community, and that will be looked at in the detailed design. So let's get into the costing of the project. How much? First of all, you have a cannot exceed cost of $52.9 million. That is what will be on the ballot. That's what would come to the voters to vote on. Just like our operating budget, the cost of the project is a not to exceed. If there's more involved with this project than we anticipated and our evaluation showed us, we cannot come back to the taxpayer and say, oh, no, the project's more than that. So please understand that is the maximum it could be, and we will be working diligently to try to find all we can in minimizing costs to make sure we certainly don't even exceed the 52.9, which we cannot anyway. But what is the real cost to the taxpayer? One thing you need to understand, first of all, is that this is a capital project, not an emergency repair. They are handled differently. In a capital project, the district can get reimbursed through New York State Building Aid. The calculation here is based on a balance of different things. Portions of the project are new construction, other portions are rehabilitation. They are reimbursed to different percentages, but on an average, if we look at a weighted average of what's being done in the district, you're looking at a 50% reimbursement. So the cost to the actual taxpayer is half of the $52.9 million. There's a lot of other things you need to consider here, and why is this a good time to be doing this? We have retiring debt. That will be going away come this project. The benefit there is an offset involved. Because the costs associated with this project, the debt would go on to basically take the place of the retiring debt. The taxpayer won't feel all of it, and that is a benefit to the taxpayer. One thing that also should be understood, and this can be a negative to the taxpayer and actually to the district, is that the retiring debt, if we don't have this project go on, because we'll have retiring debt has a basis in the calculation for the tax cap limitation, or tax cap levy, I should say. And if we don't have if we don't have debt on the books, then the reality is that it would reduce our potential for the tax cap levy, reduce the amount of revenue potentially that would come into the district that could affect essentially program and opportunities for children moving forward. So we have to factor that in, and it's another reason why this project should occur moving forward. We also are in a very low interest rate environment. As many people probably know, you can't. We've heard it so many times that interest rates are at their historical lows when it comes to mortgages and such. That is true for our district as well. I believe the current rates that were used in the calculations for our project were around 3.5%, and that would be gotten through a 20-year bond that the district would float. The cost, the actual cost to the taxpayer, and this is the important thing to note on this slide. So at the end of the day, what will this really cost the taxpayer? And the actual cost is essentially $20 per 100,000 of assessed value. What does that mean? That means if you take the value of your home or your property and divide it by 100,000, multiply that number by $20, that would be your cost. It's a one-time escalation cost that would be added to your taxes, and that level of that cost would be maintained for the entire duration of the bond, or for 20 years. So that is your actual cost as a taxpayer, and that's what you should remember. So again, why now? The issues there, you see a few pieces of information, almost like a timeline. I think the most important one, and the one I want to focus on here, is the Facilities Master Plan. The Facilities Master Plan was started about a year and a half, 2 years ago now, and the reality behind that master plan was, historically, the district has always kind of looked based on a 5-year building conditions survey, and based on that tried to determine projects, kind of project by project basis, but never looking at the facilities as a whole, or never looking at the district as a whole. The idea behind the Facilities Master Plan was for the first time to really assess what the overall needs of the district are from a facility standpoint, assess that not for today and not for next week and not even for a month from now, but for the long term. Essentially look at it over the next 20 years. And not only just to look at it from a facilities needs, but to link the facilities needs with the educational master plan. So educationally, what do we need over the next 20 years? Now, obviously, that's kind of hard to figure, but at least we can make some assumptions moving forward and look at it with the idea being that what comes out of the master plan we won't undo 5-10 years from now. The idea is to create a facilities master plan that we can work with and then work through over the next number of years, and again, not create a situation where money that's been spent now will be redone and wasted 5 or 10 years from now as we change our minds on what our facility should look like. So what was done in the facilities plan, and I won't belabor this too long, but essentially what we did was we hired a consultant to come in to help us develop the facilities master plan, and they looked at essentially our 4-campus option, the way we currently are situated, along with some consolidation options to look at potential savings for consolidating the district to less campuses, as well as looking at potential cost savings associated with that consolidation, and factoring in the cost of the sale of those potential properties that we wouldn't need if we were to consolidate. And what came out of all that in a nutshell was that actually the current configuration of the 4 campuses, and hence why I showed you in the very first slide the 4-campus option, was by far the most cost-effective and in the best interest of the students moving forward, and that was the basis of it. So that, again, is the most important thing there, is that the Facilities Master Plan now exists and was adopted by the Board of Education. Many items are at the end of their life, and that's what brings them and becomes major infrastructure questions. Again, we've talked about too small classrooms and too few of them in many of the buildings, mostly in the middle school and the high school. Emergency repairs are, again, expensive. What you need to consider here is that with regards to emergency repairs, they're typically not reimbursable by the state. They are not considered capital projects typically. And when that happens, the taxpayer, are paying 100% of those costs. So it's a very expensive way to do the repairs for the district, and that's not the way we should be approaching it if we can. So capital project is truly the way we should be approaching it if we possibly can. Future costs will be more. Certainly, things go up in time. Everyone knows that. We are again in the low interest rate environment. The retiring debt benefit, we've talked about that already. There's the potential that as we continue to move on and not have this project occur, the costs will only increase from here. Again, I already touched on it. The work is too expensive through the operating budget because it doesn't qualify for building aid. So we've already touched on that. Project management, part of the due diligence that we did was we did bring in Palumbo Group. Even beyond what we did with the consultant, the architectural consultant, we also had Palumbo Group reevaluate the entire facilities and look at it from ground up once again to confirm the numbers before we brought them or will bring them to the voters. So we are very comfortable with that. They will also be retained with this project to make sure that we're on time and on budget and executed properly within the constraints of the final design. Big thing on this slide to focus on is with regards to the students. The Board of Education has made a commitment that we will not displace any students during the construction of these projects. We will look through swing space concepts. We will be building brand new areas, especially in the middle school, and moving the students to those areas while we redo areas, other areas that they're currently inhabiting, and make sure that we schedule most of these projects to be done during nights, weekends, and in the summer months. Again, the children will not be moved from their existing buildings. No children will be, like I said, moved out of the district, or certainly even moved out of their own buildings, like I just mentioned, during this project. So, learn more. There will be another one on October 8th. Tour of the middle school and get a good idea for those who haven't seen the middle school in a while to see the true needs from an infrastructure standpoint, if nothing else, of that building, and move forward with the project. And again, another opportunity for you to come out, ask questions. There is actually another meeting just like this has been added for October 22nd. Please do come out, ask your questions, inform yourselves. Please, you need to understand the needs of the district so that you can be an informed voter as you go to the polls. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you were able to get quite a bit of information from the presentation. But please, I do ask that you reach out. Any questions or anything you're confused about, we would love to hear from you. Please do reach out so we can get your questions answered before the all-important vote. Thank you.